Today, we just come to you with humble hearts. Lord, we know there's those among us, those that have worked for our school system, so that are dearly beloved and have lost a loved one. We lift up the Tillis family. We thank you for what they've done for this community and how hard and how much they contribute back to our kids, both in FFA and to education. And we thank you for Terry. Lord, we ask that you just give us guidance and wisdom today as we come to you tonight, that you will help us put students first, and that we'll do right by our staff. And we thank you for the wisdom and the guidance that you provide us. Lord, we thank you for being able to celebrate students tonight and staff that have gone above and beyond. We thank you for them being able to be here. And Lord, we just pray for those that are traveling, those that are at the state fairs competitions, as we know that they're down in Tampa, and we lift them up. Lord, we ask all these things in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
If you'll address the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I now entertain a motion to adopt our agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. At this time, so I'm going to call Miss Tanya Taylor to come forward. And she's going to introduce our guest. So Miss Taylor is our CT. So.
Good evening. I'm excited to celebrate CTE Month with our CTSOs that are here present today, in which CTE Month is highlighting all of what we're doing with CTE. And because of that, most of our CTSOs choose CTE Month as the week that they select to celebrate specifically. So for FFA, we know that FFA week is next week, and FBLA is currently FBLA week this week. So we wanted to do a proclamation for FBLA week and FFA week and CTE Month. So I have Mr. Wilson here. He's our FBLA advisor at Bronxville High School with some of his FBLA students. Thank you for coming. You guys look super snazzy and very professional, super impressive. I know you have to dress like that at your competitions, and so way to represent. And then we have Miss Cooey here representing FFA and our awesome FFA members to proclaim FFA Week. Thanks for letting us do this with you guys. Mr. Pat?
Sure. I'll start with FBLA. So, FBLA Week Proclamation. Whereas the Future Business Leaders of America, Inc., is a nonprofit educational organization whose first chapter was established in Johnson City, Tennessee in 1942, and whereas Iowa became FBLA's first state chapter in 1947, whereas FBLA includes more than 200,000 members and advisors in 4,600 chapters nationwide in middle schools, high schools, colleges, universities, career and technical schools, and private business schools. And whereas FBLA is a professional business organization dedicated to bringing business and education together in a positive working relationship through innovative leadership and career development programs. And whereas FBLA members perform community service activities and strive to build a student's understanding of the realities of the modern business world. And whereas FBLA teaches middle school, high school, and college students basic business and leadership principles and assists them in the transition from school to work. Now therefore, I, Mr. Christopher Cowart, Superintendent of Levy County School District, do hereby proclaim February 11th through 17th, 2024 as National FBLA Week in the School District of Levy County. So, Mr. Chair, we would love for the board to ratify this proclamation. And then I'd love for Mr. Wilson to come forward and introduce his guests and talk a little bit about FBLA.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of this proclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Proclamation carries.
All right. Mr. Wilson, would you come forward and introduce these wonderful gentlemen that you have with you?
All right, I brought along a couple of my, they're gonna be going to state, representing us. In different reports we've done considering our tournaments and community service and all the things that we've done as FBLA. But over here is Kevin Harrows, is Justice Phillips, Freddie Freeman, and Kadrian Brown. But yeah, so we have 29 kids going to state, competing in state. Last year we were very successful. We ended up sending, I think we had four people to nationals to compete. So for a small school like us, that's pretty powerful when you can do that. And we actually had 7 kids placed in state, but only top 4 go to national. So we had one team that was 5, so they didn't get a chance to go. But this year, I'm hoping I have about 15 kids going nationally. That's the goal right now, so at least. So, but thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And I know you had your tournament the other day, so
Oh,
the
yeah.
Smash Brothers, so how did that go?
So this is a little tough one. So talk about the tournament. We had another successful year.
Thank you.
This year we actually got very deep in with the UF, is esports club and stuff, because they just now went from like just a regular club to a sports club now. So they're able to use but we have like relationships with every single aspect of esports in UF. It goes pretty deep. We raised over $3,000 for this year, but unfortunately, treatments, and he's currently in hospice right now. But our goals, and I've already talked to UF and everything, is that our next step in this process is doing scholarships. So that's how, from here on out, every tournament that we do, all the money would go to giving scholarships to kids that are within my program or within esports, because it's gonna be helpful. I mean, you're talking about if you can bring in about $3,000 of scholarships to kids, that's great, and very useful. So that is where we're transitioning to now. Unfortunately, the circumstances had us transition that, but we want to continue all the good we have done with the tournaments. So we thought this would be the best way, and the family will be involved in picking for the scholarship. So.
If you need any help, I know Ms. Whitehurst through the Schools Foundation, we'd love to help you with helping those scholarships. So we appreciate what you're doing there with FBLA. So, and would you reintroduce these boys again? So
All right,
just,
it's Kevin Harrows,
so,
all right, Justice Phillips, Freddie Freeman, and Kadrian Brown.
there we go. So, yes, can we get you guys up here? I'm gonna stand beside these snazzy shoes. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys being here. Justice.
Wilson, those dudes look almost as good as you, man. Y'all learn that style from him, don't you?
No, I can't match Freddie's style.
Yeah, he is.
Those
He
shoes are
is.
something
He
else.
Freddie's cool.
Ms. Cooey, would you like to come forward and introduce who you have with you? So,
They're gonna come with me though.
good.
So next week, we celebrate National Uncle Pay Week. National Uncle Pay Week is always celebrated the week of President's Day, which is the same week as George Washington's birthday. It is celebrated nationally, like I said, FFAs in all 50 states, including U.S. territories like Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. and it's really cool when we go to national convention each October. The kids get to see members of our organization from those territories and from states like Hawaii that we don't get to interact with on a regular basis. But we have a fun week planned next week to celebrate at our school. Annabelle Whitehurst is going to talk a little bit about what we have planned for next week. She did print you out also a schedule. Mr. Coward is going to join us for any of those fun activities.
Okay, so on Tuesday, which is February 20th, our high school students will go to Joyce Bullock to do an ag literacy thing. So we'll be reading a book to them and showing them how orange juice is made. And so that's kind of interactive. That's promoting the ag industry as well. Our middle school students also are doing the farm day at Williston Elementary, which we do every year at FFA week. Wednesday, which is February 21st, we'll have Kona Ice in the CTE courtyard, and there will be a kickball tournament in 6th and 7th periods. Thursday, we'll have a peanut bowl in our ag classes and a water ball for our staff in Miss Hancock's office. And Friday, we'll have an FFA lunch in our ag shop. So
Awesome.
if you would like to attend for any of those, that's welcome to
I
join.
appreciate that, so. And so, Mrs. Whitehurst and Ms. Whitehurst, would you like to introduce, you have some people here in the crowd, so I'm sure you'd like to introduce them, right?
Oh, my dad. Okay, well, that's my dad. That's my dad, Devin Whitehurst.
She's ashamed of me, so.
She didn't say that, but he's a school board member, and then my mom is Annie Whitehurst, who's the director for the Schools Foundation.
And Ms. Stinson, I know you have some guests here, so I thought maybe you'd want to introduce them.
Yes, that's my mom, Miss Angela Stinson, and then that's my dad, Mr. August Stinson.
So Ms. Stinson's one of our English teachers at Williston Middle High School, so we appreciate them coming. So, well, while we're here, so let's do this proclamation for National FFA Week. So, National FFA Week, February 17th through the 24th of 2024. Whereas FFA and agriculture education provide a strong foundation for the youth of America and the future of food, fiber, and natural resource systems. And whereas FFA promotes premier leadership, personal growth, and career success among its members. And whereas agriculture education and FFA ensure a steady supply of young professionals to meet the growing needs in the science, business, and technology of agriculture. And whereas the FFA motto, learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve, gives direction and purpose to these students who take an active role in succeeding in agriculture education. And whereas FFA promotes citizenship, volunteerism, patriotism, and cooperation. Therefore, I do hereby designate the week of February 17th to the 24th, 2024 as National FFA Week. So, congratulations, ladies. So we appreciate you guys being here. So, got this. So let's step up here.
I'll leave this right here, Mr. Coward.
Thank you very much. So,
Mr. Cower, I don't think the other little student was introduced.
so,
Was she? Was the other student introduced?
so this is, introduce yourselves.
I'm Avery Whitehurst.
No, we left that little Whitehurst out, didn't we?
That's the one that's proud of her daddy.
That's right.
She ain't ashamed of him. I'll now entertain a motion to accept this proclamation.
So moved. Second.
Any opposition? Any comment? Seeing none, motion carries by unanimous consent.
And last but definitely not least, so we know how valuable CTE, career and technical education is, not only in Levy County, but in the state of Florida. So with that, so whereas February 1st through the 29th, 2024 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education and the School Board of Levy County. Whereas career and technical education offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness. Whereas students in career and technical education programs participate in authentic, meaningful experiences that improve the quality of their education and increase their engagement and achievement. And whereas career and technical education provides students with career exploration opportunities earlier in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework and pursue established programs of study and career pathways. And whereas leaders from business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to addressing the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with available careers in critical and growing CTE-related fields, including healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, and information technology. And whereas career and technical education prepares students for these and other fulfilling careers by offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education and lead to the attainment of industry-recognized credentials. And whereas career and technical education programs ensure that employers have access to a qualified and thriving workforce, ensuring America is a strong and competitive economy. Now therefore, I, Mr. Christopher Cowart, Superintendent of School Board of Levy County, do hereby proclaim February 1st through the 29th, 2024 as Career and Technical Education Month in Levy County Public Schools, and urge all citizens to become familiar with the services and benefits offered by the career and technical education programs in this community, and to support and to participate in these programs to enhance their individual skills and productivity. In testimony where I there have hereunto set my hand and cause to be affixed the great seal of the School Board of Levy County this 13th day of February 2024.
Do I hear a motion to accept this proclamation?
Make the motion to accept. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, Mr. Superintendent.
And Mr. Chair, we are on the agenda to go before the Board of County Commissioners next Tuesday to also have this ratified by the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. At this point, we will take a 2-minute recess to allow these young students the opportunity to go home because they have, I know Wilson's gave y'all a lot of homework, so y'all got to. We will take a 2-minute recess to do that. I want to welcome everybody that's here tonight. I skipped ahead. I got carried away. Now we'll move on to call on Miss Nina Morrison.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The Centers for Autism and Related Disabilities, known as CARD, presented the Diana McLendon Excellence in Teaching Award at the recent CARD conference. To honor Diana, CARD recognized 9 Florida educators who exhibit kindness, innovation, positive attitude, and high energy, as well as share Diana's passion for students with autism. One of our own, Christina Story of Chiefland Middle High School, was nominated and presented this award. We are so pleased for her to receive recognition for all her hard work and dedication to her students. Please help me in congratulating her this evening. Just a small recognition. Thank you.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. I'm gonna put you on the spot, so. So all the board members may not know, so would you share about your classroom experiences? So,
Well, I have CARD come in and help me.
So,
Because I do, my range in disabilities is a struggle sometimes to make sure that I meet all the kids' needs. I have a class of 18 and they're all with special needs.
Wow.
They're
That's a
great,
lot.
they're a great group of kids that I love them.
Actually nominated by University of Florida. CARD,
Wow.
Dr. Liso comes in and serves and nominated her.
Wow.
Wow.
Congratulations. Special honor, well deserved.
Appreciate representing us.
Congratulations.
Now call on Miss Melissa Lewis.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Very exciting to come before you and share with you our mid-year data. Half of our schools, the secondary half, completed their mid-year assessments with the state in December, and elementary completed them in January. We actually are taking a shift next year, and we're gonna have everybody complete all of our mid-year data in December, so that when we come back after Christmas, everybody's complete. We have everything kind of a mid-year point behind us, and we can look at this kind of information back in January, beginning when we come back, so that we can review and move forward from that point. So I'm very pleased to share what we're going to see. This is a 50-something slide presentation. We are not going to look at all 50 slides. But what I want to share with you is this is the same presentation that has been provided to all of our schools. Our administrators and our school coaches are using the information in it. You're going to see where teachers have slides particularly for them. And so you're going to be able to see, have some comparisons, and we'll share this presentation with you so you can dig into it, come back with questions if you have them. But I thought it was important for you to see what we were providing to them and not just see a slideshow of numbers. So I started off the presentation with the cut score comparison with last year's end of year scores, because it's going to be important when we look at some of the slides, especially for K2, and I'm going to explain why. So at the end of the year last year, when our kids took PM3 FAST, K10 for ELA and K8 for math, they received a scale score based on the FSA scale. So they each took their grade level, and then they got a score, same kind of scale score that we've been getting for years. But we knew that they were going to, what they're calling, retrofit the scores with the new scale scores once they were approved, which happened in October. So this is a percent, this is just the state, this is not our district. So this is the state percent of students that are on level before with the old scale score. That's the second column. And then after the new scale scores were applied, what that looked like by grade level with the new FAST scores. The third column shows you, as the state, the difference in the percent of kids that were then proficient after the new scale scores were applied. So looking at kindergarten ELA, you'll see old scale scores, 62% of the state kindergartners were on level. After the new scale scores were applied, only 51% were on level, so that was a difference of 11%. So we did that for each grade level. And then over on the right-hand side, we wanted our schools to be able to look based on the kind of school they are. And y'all know that we have a great mixture, K2s, 3 5s, 6 10s, all of the above, K8. So we wanted to look at it in a way that if we applied the change that happened to the state to where we saw our schools end, how was it going to look different? And so you can see for ELA, a K2 school had to consider that their percent proficient in ELA would have dropped by 10%. So whoever our kids were that were barely making it, barely passing the state assessment to go into third grade, 10% of those kids might not have actually passed. So that's going to help some slides ahead make sense. This is something else that the Department of Education has released. So our K2 students take the Renaissance STAR assessments. Kindergarten takes STAR Early Literacy. First grade starts in STAR Early Literacy, ends in STAR Reading. Second grade takes STAR Reading the whole time. And then K2 all take STAR Math. Last year we ended looking at unified scale scores, which were just a Renaissance scale score. Now we have the state scale scores applied. And so our K2 teachers can look at the unified scale score kids ended with and determine what level they were with the new scale scores. So just another piece to reflect on. On the left-hand side, you'll see we provided the teachers links to the chart. There are goal sheets. So now that we've lived through it for a year, we've got our minds wrapped around it, we've created some goal sheets for teachers to use to have data chats with the kids to set goals to reach for this last PM3. And then there's a link there that came from the state on how they can run reports in Renaissance. This takes a little bit of a shift looking at iReady because we're still using iReady. A lot of people ask, why are we still using iReady and iExcel? iReady, remember, is elementary, iExcel is secondary. iReady and iExcel give our teachers and give our students support to fill gaps and enrich them if they're higher level. If we only did FAST, we would have no support to give to our teachers and give to our kids because iExcel and iReady gives us support. The state, I kind of call it the support and the judge. If we just had the judge, we wouldn't have anything to kind of help us fill gaps. So what you'll see here is if you're comparing Diagnostic 2 last year to Diagnostic 2 this year, those are the changes. We've got a little bit of a drop of the percent of kids on level in ELA, and then you've got some kindergarten was down 4% being proficient, but then we do have some increase in first and second grade. These are the state scores, and this is where that very first chart I showed you about the cut scores where we were expecting that big shift. And then I did look at ELA with you. I want you to jump down to math there at the bottom. Look at the difference of how much a K2 school was affected by the change in the math cut scores. 18% less of the kids would have been on level at the end. So whenever we're looking at this next slide here, on the left, look at unified scale score, PM2. Kindergarten last year at this point in the year were 37% proficient. Skip over to the fast level side, PM2, and you see 26% are proficient because that's with the new cut scores. So it doesn't mean that our kindergartners, first and second graders are necessarily performing lower. It's just they're set to a different level, a different expectation now.
This may sound like a stupid
It's
question.
not, nothing is stupid, and if I can answer you, I will.
But is this one of those things where the 2022-23 kindergartners are a different bunch of kindergartners than the 23-24s,
They
right?
are.
This is,
Yes.
I'm saying we're not comparing the same kids. So
You
our
can
kindergartners
Yes, sir.
are the first graders.
Right, so
In this
if
thing.
you wanted to compare the same group of kids, you would look at as kindergartners, now as first graders, they're here. Yep. They were first graders, now they're second graders, so the drop does look less.
So the same.
Even though it's being measured at a higher benchmark.
But if you look at it, the same kids are, Johnny in kindergarten is close to where Johnny was in first grade,
Yes, sir.
even though there is so to me, yeah, they lowered the standard 11%, 12, whatever it is.
But our kids are rising up.
But he's coming up, if you look at it.
Yes, sir.
Whereas, in theory, that kindergartner, last year, we'd never seen before, and that kindergarten this year, we never saw before, so
The other
two
piece of
different
that
batches.
is PM1 is testing on end of the year standards. PM2 is also, so that's why you
Yes,
see,
it's
you're
always
seeing.
end of year.
It's
Yeah.
always, so,
Well, and the other reason I want to explain too for K2, the reason for such a shift is that with the old, looking at it with the old unified scale scores, a second grader then moving into third grade, the expectation was very different. And so the state has now aligned the scale scores in a way that we're not telling second graders that, woo, you're doing wonderful, and then you go to third grade and like, you hit a wall. That scale is much more smooth to really make sure that our K2 is having to reach the same expectation as 3 and up. But with 2 different assessments. So there's your challenge.
Okay.
This is a lot, but this was for the teacher. So we're about to go into K2 slides. This was written for a teacher to follow using the next slide. So it's their reflection piece. It guided them through, here's some reports, here's things to think about as you're working through it. A lot of this and similar activities were used yesterday at the district, well, there's a district PD day, but at the schools, they use these reflection questions to think through some activities. This is what was provided to each grade level. So each grade level got an ELA slide and a math slide. It is, the snip in the middle is a picture of what the first link is up at the top. So you will be able to see with an explanation below it of district-wide data. So the top row would be district, and then each school has it. So when a teacher clicks on the link at the top, they are able to see their class and able to compare how did their class perform against their school and against the district to kind of reflect themselves of how their class is progressing. Like I said, each grade level got one. This is just an explanation of how K-1-2, actually specifically first grade is the only one that has some differences. They start the year early literacy, and then they kind of ease their way to everybody ending with the STAR reading assessment at the end of the year. This is our K-2 math data comparison. So same thing, Mr. Cameron. You can look at grade level changes across in a row, but you can jump from PM2 kindergarten to PM2 first grade over on the right side to see how the grade levels are comparing as a cohort. Math K2, as you saw, was 18% difference with the state. So that's where you also see the biggest difference between the PM2 last year using the unified scale score to project proficiency and PM2 this year with the FAST level. Then here's math, each grade level got a math tab with the same information. Do you have a question?
Just a statement, and this is great information too, because we've talked about it in board meetings, when the kid that has all A's or AB comes home and then has this,
Yes.
you know, poor test score.
Yes.
So this is good data for that teacher to kind of say where, and also on that train of thought, how important it is for a teacher to not leave us mid-year when you look at, you know, what all goes on
Yes.
in a kid's world, so.
It's not something I included in the presentation, but yesterday, district-wide, I think pretty much every teacher completed what's called the quadrant activity. So they used the links up in the top to open up their class. And then they were able to look at how a kid is proficient right now if they're already a level 3, and then what their growth is looking like. K2 was able to use the student growth percentile, and grades 3 and up used either iReady or iExcel typical growth if they'd made a half year's growth. So they were able to chart all of their kids, high kids, low kids. How are they proficient and are they growing? Because sometimes our high kids aren't growing, and so as the teachers were plotting the kids out, they were able to hone in on maybe some surprises of they're doing really well, but they're not growing. And so sometimes learning gains are back in the picture for our schools this year and our district. So all of that's really important. And yesterday I think was a really good day for teachers to mid-year to kind of see where they are. I'm going to skip this slide because Ms. Hanlon's going to present about it. This is about the SIP grant, right? Is the right name? This is just the shift for teachers. Like I said, this went out to all of them, so they were able to find their slide title, and then they knew that's where they started. This is a view of their new scale score chart and the chart that they use to determine if kids make learning gains. You'll see on the left-hand side that there's goal sheets made for teachers to have data chats with those grade levels as well. Writing is back this year for everybody. Last year they field tested it. So fourth through 10th grade students will take the ELA writing, the best writing assessment, and these are just the scores that they would have to achieve to be on level. This is that reflection slide again for 3rd through 5th grade, and here's some data to look at. So using iReady, PM2 or Diagnostic 2 to Diagnostic 2, you can see some areas that have dropped with iReady and then some that have increased. And like I said, Ms. Hanlon's going to talk more about iReady and some amazing things that are in place right now. Very excited about it. These are just the numbers that those gains or losses were calculated from. But like Mr. Cameron said, if you look, third grade, 37% this year, last year PM2, down to 33%, so it's somewhat close. Fourth grade was 38. As fifth graders, they're now 39%, so. I'm just gonna click through some of these. Third through fifth grade got the same things K2 got. Here's our math scores using FAST. And then there's the slides for the teachers. Reflection questions for science. Literally, we touched every subject. The only thing that is not in all of these slides are like electives and things. And I want to show you the very last slide of the presentation in a minute. But here's grades 6 through 10. Lots of celebrations in 6 through 10, a difference from this point last year to now. Look at algebra, 20% higher, the percent of kids that are on level right now in IXL compared to last year. Sixth grade math, 14%. Eighth grade ELA, 9%. Eighth grade FAST ELA, 15%. Just a lot to celebrate. We actually were able, like I said, we're moving everybody to December next year. We presented some of this to a secondary on the SIP day in January, so we didn't wait until yesterday for them. But we break out into subject area groups, and there was a lot of celebration with them. It was fun to be a part of. These are just the percents that make up what we were just the summary we were looking at. Reflection questions for 6 through 10. I made slides that had a collection, so this one is grade 6 through 10. So an administrator could click on these slides and see their whole school to make some projections for where they're at, where each teacher got to click on their specific grade level or course. There's your math fast data that made those percents we already looked at. Combination of grade 6 through 8. And then a part that I really like is this one. So this was made so that an ag teacher, a business teacher, anyone who was in the room a minute ago, they could click on these and they are able in Performance Matters to see the kids that they teach for whatever subject they have, but they can see their ELA and their math scores. Because really and truly, we're all owning those. They have an effect on different pieces of the school grade component, but really and truly, we're all their ELA and math teachers. So a lot of them used this yesterday as well to be able to have some celebrations. A lot of them have adopted kids that are maybe lowest quartile, and so it gives them a way to see the kids' scores and have talks with the kids that are not related to even like their core subjects. So like I said, I do want to share, there's a lot to take in here, so I want to share the presentation with you guys and the Levy data sheet, which is one of our favorite things because it has all of the coloring. You guys have seen it before, so it's updated with PM2 data. So I'll share that with y'all too because it's one place and you can see all the things, where these snips were really intended to explain when they opened up the reports, what was in the columns, so that they kind of made sure that they understood what they were looking at. But I think you guys will enjoy seeing the Levy data sheet. So,
Thank you,
any
Ms.
questions?
Lewis.
Thank you, ma'am.
As far as what we're doing about what we have seen, growths needed or growths to celebrate, what Ms. Hanlon's gonna talk about next. She's next on the agenda, right? So I'm gonna turn it over. Is it okay?
Sure. You just run the thing you wait.
I'll get to that.
First, I gotta do curriculum.
This whole agenda thing, just,
Throw it out the window. Forget that.
I messed up the first part. So.
So good evening. I am here today to talk about science and social studies textbook adoption. Mrs. Eastman was here at the last board meeting. And at that time, we made the final recommendation. Today, we're gonna make the final recommendation. We put it up for a public hearing in January. So, Today, based on and what you've been shown, we have tallied, we had all the schools vote. Remember in science, they had their top 3 selections. K-5 had top 3 for social studies, and then 6 through 12 had only 2 choices to choose from in the voting process there. So today, we're making our final recommendation to the board, and then we're gonna open it up with your approval, board approval. We'll open it up for a parental objections notice. Within that 30 days, if anybody has any parental objections, there's a special form they need to complete. We'll address those to come before it says a meeting, a board meeting, but it's more of like a panel, a quorum panel. And then we'll bring it to the board for final approval, March 26th.
So you need a motion.
That I do.
Do I hear a motion to approve the final recommendation?
I make a motion to approve the final recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Hanlon. Please continue.
Okay, so today I want to share with you some exciting things that piggyback off of our data that we are putting into place in our district in case you obviously need to know about it, but if you hear some things in your schools, this is impacting teachers and your administration specifically. So we were awarded a funding in December of last year, and it was a quick turnaround. So how this came about is that Title I school improvement funds are held off the top of Title I at the state level to serve targeted and comprehensive support schools. So those are schools based on their data that need more support. Federal grants are issued every 3 years, and to us districts, they're awarded each year. But at the end of that 3-year term, as it ends, there are unspent funds that are allocated to the districts to serve student populations as identified from ESSA. And so those targeted schools are schools that are, and don't ask me what the acronyms are because they're not written down, but ATSI, TSI, and CSI. ATSI means if you have one subgroup that's below the 41%, not proficient, there's a formula that they use. It includes ELA achievement, math achievement, social studies, science, ELL, language proficiency, that they come up the federal index. So ATSI is one subgroup below that federal index. TSI schools are schools that are one subgroup that is below 32% of the federal index. And CSI schools are those schools with a graduation rate below 67%, or schools that are D or F schools. Or schools that have a subgroup that is below the 41st, the federal index of 41% for 3 or more years. We do not, at this time, we have one CSI school, which is Whispering Winds, but with their performance this year, they'll be coming out of that status. We currently have 2 TSI schools because, which one should be moving out as well, which would be possibly Yankeetown, but then we've added in a new TSI school, which is Nature Coast, and then all the other schools are TS&I. So based on that, our targeted schools for this grant were Yankeetown, Joyce Bullock, Williston-L, Chiefland-L, Bronson Middle High, Chiefland-Middle High, Williston Middle High, and Whispering Winds. The only ones not included here were Nature Coast and Cedar Key.
BES.
Oh, did I leave them off? BES is included. Thanks for catching that. You're on your game.
I know.
Okay. So, what have we written into this grant? So this was a quick spending grant. We had to write this grant within like 2 weeks. We collaborated with the district instructional team a little bit, but it was a fast turnaround. So we identified that we were going to implement a couple activities. We're to purchase some phonics chips, and these are kits to help small group instruction in phonics specifically for those students in our subgroups, or maybe our ELL, students with disabilities, and this was targeting in grades K, I believe we went even up to grade 8 for our students that are deficient in phonics skills in middle school. We also ordered touch math kits and professional learning. all these have professional learning, which is a multisensory math program that helps students understand critical math concepts. That targeted area, students are more of, it could be used as an intervention for math if students are lacking their understanding of number sense, and also for students in a separate classroom, because it gives a real tactile experience with math concepts. So a heavy lift in this grant was a lot of professional learning. And we do professional learning really well in Levy County. So trying to find some things that will help move our students in the right direction was a bit of a challenge, but we worked hard on this. So the first thing, and I'm going to go a little bit through each one of these. There's 6 PL events that are going to be taking place. One, it has to do with iReady. One is another one to do with student education. Another one is Lexia Aspire, which is a PL platform for teachers to be able to access. We're going to have a pathway on academic language and literacy, PBIS, professional learning, and then also high leverage and practice instructional institute for the summer. So what do those mean? So let's talk about that iReady Principal Leadership Academy that Ms. Lewis is so excited about. For this, we have been to, Ms. Lewis and I have been to an assessment meeting with iReady the last couple of years, and last year they introduced some work that they did with Bay schools that were struggling with their subgroups and also performance overall. So with that, we have Stu Greenberg and Duke Chin meet monthly with administrator teams. And if you've been in education for a long time, you might know who Stu Greenberg was. He used to be the director of the early, Just Read, and early literacy at the state. So he did that for a while, and then after he left the state, he was working in other districts in the north as turning around schools. So he has, after he retired, he went to work for iReady and is now doing work with principals specifically. And then Duke Chin has worked for iReady, and so Stu's focus is reading, and then Duke's focus working with principals is on math instruction and leading their school with some practices. So they focus on giving students a double dose of the skills and benchmarks for small group instruction and exposure to rigorous question types as they have on FAST. So they come in, Stu and Duke meet with, Stu and Duke come in and meet with the principals. They do a half day of ELA, and then there's a break, and then we do a half day of math. And in that time frame, we're looking at our curriculum maps and how we can implement some of the core pieces of iReady that they can use in small group instruction, and to give that double dose of rigorous question types to students. They are also looking at changing students' pathways on the computer program that they're engaging with, and then they're also looking at our student data. They're really aligning up. They take our data files and they line it up with iReady, and they do a lot of the legwork for us as far as how to look at kids, see if they're going to make their learning gains based on their performance with iReady, and lining it up with FAST, and then what students we need to target to make adjustments in our instruction to get them to make those gains that they need. Then, after Stu and Duke come and meet with the principals and their leadership team, each school is given a professional learning day with a reading specialist from iReady and a math specialist from iReady, so that they can come in and give teachers targeted PL on the strategies they're putting into place, or they come in and they model in the classroom of implementing those strategies. We can even work on planning with teachers. So there's a lot of facets. We're only in our second month of those meetings in PL, so we're really getting rolling with it.
And they meet monthly, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
They meet monthly with you guys?
They meet monthly.
That's amazing.
So the principals meet monthly with their admin teams, and then the PL comes in monthly.
Wow.
Sometimes it requires subs. Sometimes they're running it through like the planning times, and then allowing for the planning after school. Yes. Oh. So it's however the principal wants to structure that professional learning that's gonna be happening. And that is all part of that discussion with Stu and Duke at those principal leadership meetings.
I will add, we brought, Mr. Slump came in and worked at Yankeetown, so,
Correct, so, because Mr. Slump isn't part of this project, he does come in and sit, the leadership team comes in and, when he brings his leadership team, or sometimes just himself, depending on what he can, maneuver, and sits in with Yankeetown, so that he's learning all those strategies for implementation into, his school as well. He's minus the professional learning from the specialists that come in. And then we've bought some resources of magnetic reading, which is a small group resource for reading instruction, practice and problem solving, which is math small group instruction, and workbooks for all kids to use in that instruction that we're asking them to do. So that's one component. The second component is student education. So as with anything that has to do with school improvement, they want to, the state likes to, if a school's in need of improvement, it starts from the top down, right? You can't go in and just try to fix the instruction in the classroom. We also have to look at the leadership and make sure those systems are in place to effectively move student performance. So Studer Education is a company. I went to Nassau and was participating in a professional learning with them to see some of the things that they do when Nassau brought them in to work with their administrators. And their leadership institute, they're going to come in for 2 hours once a month to provide a professional learning, primarily during our admin meetings. There might be a couple of days that we couldn't line up. And they're going to do some activities that focus on these 9 principles within that framework that have been proven practices that help administrators move schools in the right direction. So it helps them, and all principals will partake in that, so that everybody's involved. We hope to piggyback on this a little bit later on and do some coaching as well with principals, not necessarily with elementary principals, but maybe with some secondary principals, because right now those elementary principals are getting a lot of coaching, and the secondary principals don't have that option quite yet, but we want to build that capacity first to make sure our leadership teams are in place before we roll the coaching. The next thing we have on our list is Alexia Aspire. We have some subscriptions for 4th through 8th grade teachers to complete this self-paced training. It's weaving literacy skills and strategies into their instruction to support learners to read, comprehend, and articulate ideas across subject areas. We have offered they will be able to earn a stipend if the completion of this, as well as 40 hours towards their reading recertification. And they get to do it on their own time, so it's not taking them out of the classroom. We have a 2-day pathway coming up February 26th and 27th, being hosted at Williston Elementary School for 30 participants from all schools, K-12, except Nature Coast, and Cedar Key does have spots, to provide a learning experience for them, to help facilitate skill development in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. As we know that our ELL students struggle with this, but we have a lot of students that struggle with this based on their exposure before they come into school. So academic language is huge in understanding and comprehending text and being able to understand language and express language. So we are going to be working on developing our teachers in this area so that we can build capacity in our schools, because this really does hit many of our subgroups. We're also going to host this summer a PBIS professional learning, focusing on those strategies and supports for students with disabilities and at-risk students who struggle self-regulating their behaviors. As a refresher, most of us are PBIS schools. However, we have a lot of new staff that would benefit from this training as well. And finally, I think this is the last one, is High Leverage Practices Instructional Institute that Marcy Young is going to be putting together for participants this summer. that is an intensive institute for our students with disability teachers so that they can learn some of those high leverage instructional practices to help their students across all the grade levels and content areas. And whether they have a disability or not, these are great instructional strategies. So sometimes we have teachers who don't teach just self-contained or separate classroom ESE classrooms. They are dual certified, so they have ESE kids in their classroom, and this is going to be a great PL for them to build that capacity in their classrooms with all learners. So what does this mean? This is, these are our goals that we have set. These are last year's, what our performance was last year in all of those areas that are listed there. And we have set goals to increase our proficiency, our acceleration, and our grad rate, which we can edit that grad rate now that it's come out. So we can make it a little harder for ourselves because we are at 95.4. This is, hopefully, all these actions are going to help us increase student achievement. Some of these, this grant runs till September, so some of those things are going to be a little delayed in launching, just so that we can make sure that we can build consistency with our staff and not shove it all into one time and spread it out a little bit. Any questions?
A lot of information.
Yeah.
Okay. I try not to be so fast.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dr. Hanlon.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now ask for Mr. Bennett.
Good evening.
Hello, sir.
So as you may know, all public schools in Florida must maintain certain class size maximums. Class size is calculated in both October and February, and the number from the October survey is what's used for the purpose of compliance plans and penalties. So since all of our district-operated schools are considered schools of choice, that class size calculation is made at the school average level within the defined grade bands. So there's 3 grade bands. One is pre-kindergarten through 3rd grade, and their class size cap is 18 students. One is grades 4 through 8, and their class size cap is 22 students. And one is grades 9 through 12, and their cap is 25 students. Now, we did have a bit of a unique year with class size this year in that the Department of Education indicated that there is still the expectation of compliance for class size. However, the financial penalty has been waived this year. So there is that. With all that being noted, I'll say that Levy County actually did very well in regards to class size this year. We ended up with only 1 grade band, pre-K through 3, in one school, Chiefland Elementary, that was over class size cap, and it was only just barely. Class size cap is 18, and they were at 18.45. So they also had a very, very logical reason why they were over class size cap, and that is at the time of Survey 2 in October, they had a kindergarten vacancy. They had a position that they had not been able to fill yet. Since that time, they have been able to fill that vacancy. So what they had to do at the time of survey was the students that were originally planned to be assigned to that class, they had shifted them to other classes. They've since come back to the class under the teacher that has been hired. So that actually is the explanation of how that occurred, is the compliance plan that you have before you. And I would ask you first if you have any questions, and then if there's not any questions, I would look for a motion to approve the compliance plan.
I make a motion to approve the compliance plan.
A second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm thankful that they removed the financial penalty because of, we've said a million times,
Yes.
what teacher or administration is
Yes.
trying to make a class be, so thanks for
And
that.
I think you see that when you look overall. Like I said, there's 3 bands and we have multiple schools. We typically, if ever, have only 1 or maybe 2 bands and 1 or 2 schools out. The vast majority is always fine.
Right.
And I fully anticipate it continuing to be that way because that's just good teaching.
Right. We'll gladly take the funding to get another teacher.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, we need to vote.
Yes.
We have a motion, and if there's no further discussion, we'll now vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Wade.
topic.
Good evening. It's kind of crazy that we're even talking about 24, 25, but that's where we are.
Just do it, Calvin.
Yeah, I know. I think we did. Yeah, that's okay. We met in January with the LCEA, our calendar committee. We had a very collaborative meeting. We got pros and cons from the staff of what they liked in this year's calendar. So what you'll see before you is a calendar that's pretty close to the school year. A little bit of changes with Christmas, which you know is very controversial. We all like those 2 weeks off. So we have a lot of parameters that we have to work around. The starting date can't be before August 10th. We have testing, we have survey, and so many days that kids have to be in school. So what we came up with, we proposed 2 calendars. Really the only differences was Christmas break. The staff voted in favor of calendar A with 306 votes and calendar B of 72 votes. So do you have any questions about the calendar?
I like the fact that they put in there, if needed, the hurricane days on the early release days.
Yeah, hopefully we
but
won't need those
hopefully
this
we won't
year.
need 'em.
We're not gonna have a repeat of this year.
That's right,
It's gonna be a very quiet school year, so, yes.
right, but I mean, it was necessary this
Yes.
year, and we had to do it, and
Yeah.
that's just the way it falls.
It
and
seems to
can't be
help.
helped,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's better too with the later Christmas or breaking out for Christmas, especially if we're trying to get this testing in before.
exactly.
Because
Yeah.
I know it's a struggle, these kids coming back in elementary and turn around and having to test that first week. That was
It's rough,
rough.
yeah.
So I'm glad that, you know.
And we
Makes it-
provided time for professional development, school improvement, and those things for our staff members, so. Questions?
Do I
Okay.
hear a motion?
Make the motion for calendar A.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Calendar A,
you.
thank you. All right. At this time, we'd like to welcome the public. If anyone has any public comments they would like to make, now is your time. If you do choose to make public comment, we remind you that time is limited. We want you to speak for about 5 minutes. We're not allowed to vote on non-agenda items, but we are happy to hear what you have to say. Please come forward.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And if you'll please state your name for the record.
And I am too. I'm not old, I'm a classic.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to thank you for hearing me. I respectfully ask the board to consider a soccer program for Brunson High School. I see there's a big, what I'm looking for, interest. And I know about section 9, that has to be equal girls and boys team. But I see that in Williston, they have a competitive, cheerleading team. We have a cheerleading team, but it's not competitive, so if there's any way we can move that agenda forward, so we have equal boys and girls. And I have a couple of kids that I know, one of them has done everything possible. He's a 9th grader, and he's done everything possible to try to create that soccer team. And I went to the principal, and basically she said that section 9, that it has to be equal teams. And again, I don't know if I'm getting my information correct, because I'm going on the internet, but there's a disparity between the girls and the boys as far as numbers. I think it's 47% girls, 53% boys. I don't know if that makes any difference, but I'm looking at the boys who are possibly go onto the team, and we're willing to tutor them before practice. So they have tutoring, so if they're off the average, we can get them up to, can't promise anything other than a C, but we can work with them to get at least a C. And like I said, I don't know if you have any questions, but I would love for it to be considered. And if there's any workaround, We have a couple of parents that are willing to do whatever it takes. And for another matter, we got basically everything donated. We got 4 goals donated. We have fundraising already in place. I believe there's a coach, a possible coach. I don't know if he needs to be approved. I'll be a participating parent. Doesn't matter, but like I said, I have a national degree in high school sports, so I don't know if that makes any difference. But again, I would love for you to consider it. I know, and not for now, because I know you have to make for the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
But this is all I'm doing, presenting it for the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you so
And
much.
what was your name? Can you,
Walter Plum. And I have a son in 9th grade.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Any more comments? Ms. Whitehurst, do you have anything you need to say? Okay. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Are there any changes necessary?
I move to approve the minute.
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to our consent agenda. I'll start with Mrs. Brookins.
I have got all my questions answered by Mr. Coward. Thank you very much.
Mr. Whitehurst.
All my questions been answered. Good to see some people extending their drop and staying on. So, other than that, I don't have any questions.
Mrs. Clemens.
All my questions were answered.
Thank you. All my questions were answered. I am thrilled to death to see Brandon's back. I think that's wonderful. I will entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move on to our finance consent agenda. Are there, everybody's questions already been answered, Mrs. Brookins?
Yes.
Mr. Whitehurst?
I'm good.
Yes.
Ms. Clemency, mine are too. I'll entertain a
I
motion
make the
to.
motion to approve our finance agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move on to our superintendent's comment, seeing as he has none.
I'll be very brief, Mr. Chair. So, it's always good when we have some of the cream of the crop here. Obviously, these two Whitehurst young ladies that are here have represented Williston Middle High School really well, so along with some other individuals, so, and the young men that we had here from Bronson, so, along with Ms. Stinson from Williston, so. I would ask you just to keep the Tillis family, in your thoughts and prayers. So Ms. Melba was a bus driver, so, for us, but that family has been very, very supportive through the years of FFA and the Chiefland schools, so, in Levy County in general, the fair, and whatnot, so with that. And I also would ask that you, lift up the Boyle family, so, and their loss, so with Ms. Boyle, being out of town today, so. A couple bright spots, so not to steal, so the thunder of Miss Annie Whitehurst. So, but the Beast Feast went off extremely well on Saturday night, and at first glance, it looks like that we're going to touch close to $33,000. So, and that's a big tribute to you guys and what you do. So, not only cooking, giving of your time, but also buying a cake, and also the many people that are sponsors that do that, whether it's Central Florida Electric, so. The Board of County Commissioners, and across the board. So those that really do a good job of kind of making that event a great event. So just appreciate you guys. I know it's that time. We're in the final about 2.5 weeks of legislative season, so it'll be coming down the pike. Trying to fine tune. I did have the Office of Governor reach out for some clarifying on our project that we're trying to push forward. So working on getting them some answers and sharing. So, and Breezy was very, very helpful in providing some information on these buildings. It's 13 buildings spread across 4 campuses, but buildings that from the inception that it's on the original roof. I think there's 4 buildings that are on the original roof, so that we're looking at trying to help and try and just create a good infrastructure to be able to shelter families went during a time of hurricane. So I think that's an important thing. The last thing, kind of in going hand in hand with our couple of presentations today, we met with all of our elementary school principals. So JBE and Wilsonville came together. So, and then we had, so Chief Linnell, so Bronsonville, and Cedar Key and Yankeetown. We waited and talked to them after we had all the data to talk to Mr. Slump and Ms. Westfall. So, and I just want to highlight, so the efforts that went in, so with Dr. Hancock and Ms. Lewis and what they bring to the table, so, and really working on the data piece and then also this piece on the school improvement grant. So I think the turnaround was even a little bit quicker than Dr. Hanlon talked about. So I think it was maybe closer to about 7 days that she had, that the state dropped that, and we had to turn that around. And this kind of goes with what Morgan did. So this class size, so more and more things are coming out of DOE. So 2 days after we met last time, they dropped the class size and it was due. So 2 days after we had our meeting in the end of January, and then it was due February 1st. So there's a lot of turnover that's gone on in DOE, and I think you've seen that across the state with education. And so these group of people that are in the back here, so are really, really bright rock stars for Levy County. So, and they've done a really, really good job. And I really think these programs that we've talked about today are really going to move the needle for our teachers and for our kids eventually. So, and with that, so I know I won't steal your thunder. I know you've got some things going on. So, but we've got next week. So,
I was like,
so, but that's all I've got. So, thank y'all.
thank you, Mr. Superintendent. We'll now start with our board comments, and we'll start with Mrs. Brooke.
Well, it was an honor to have Christina here tonight, and we're just so glad that we could honor her tonight and her award. That was very, very nice. I really appreciate all you do. I mean, everybody at Chiefland High School, they say wonderful things about you and all that you do. Thank you very much. Chiefland High School, Middle High School also hosted a weightlifting meet. Was it last week? Week before?
2
weeks ago.
ago,
Yeah,
so.
very successful. Outstanding job. I was not able to attend, but I've heard nothing but wonderful things about that. So it was very nice. Thank you, Annie, for all you do with the Beast Feast. It's very nice, very well attended, and I think everything went super smooth. Chiefland Middle High School also, FFA has a cake auction this Friday night. So if anyone's available and wants to attend, that would be wonderful. And that's all that I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Wackers.
I said, had a enjoyed time at the Beast Feast. I want to give a shout out to Breezy and the maintenance crew. They certainly did a good job.
Here.
You know, getting everything brought out and then taken back. I mean, setting up for over 300 people, that's a big undertaking. They sit there, do it flawlessly, and not much complaining that I know of. And so certainly appreciate what they do. And like I say, enjoyed, serving and, getting to visit with everybody there. And like I said, certainly with the money raised, that's the most important part. So certainly had a great turnout. We had the Williston High School girls and boys basketball team both make the playoffs. The girls play tomorrow and the boys I think play Thursday. The boys are number 1 seed, so hopefully, continue on, and the girls too. They got to play Trenton, I think, maybe for the 4th time this year tomorrow. So we'll see if they can finally maybe get one on. Coach Jim Irvin actually was named the Class 1A District 7 Coach of the Year. That's Wilson's men's basketball coach, the boys. So that, and I also appreciate all the CTE. I really glad, Levy County, I feel like that's a strong suit for us, and Ms. Tanya Taylor does a good job, advocating and pushing that. And not everybody's made out for college, and I feel like we gotta give a career path for these kids, and I'm glad we advocate for that out here. So, and other than that, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Clemente.
Well, I missed Ruby's Feast for the first time in 5 years, but in my defense, I was a judge at the rib cook-off of 21 sides, and it was heavenly until about side number 17. And I literally made myself sick. So that was why I wasn't there. But so appreciative of everything the foundation does, and glad it was such a successful year. I'm going to brag on Yankeetown tonight. Mackenzie St. John, as some of you guys may have seen on social media, was the district spelling bee winner. So she gets to move on to regionals. Super big deal. It might be the first from
First that I know
Yankeetown.
of,
I
yes.
think, yeah, I think so too. Yankeetown also won the iReady contest for reading and math, so they're super proud of that. And I spoke to Ms. Westfall yesterday, and I wasn't going to say this, but then we decided today that we did want it on record in the minutes. Ms. Hogan, so I'll talk slow. But I mentioned this, I think, a meeting or two ago, but when Yankeetown received their recognition money, $42,000, I believe, overwhelmingly majority of the employees, and these employees consist of single moms, just a wide array of people, but in the economy that we live in right now, for those employees to say, I will give back the $1,000 that I would personally be able to use for a vacation, I think is just huge and says so much about the culture of that school. So many of the employees in Yankeetown come from Yankeetown, which I think is so important and so special. And like I've said before, everything right now is just clicking for that school. They have the right people in place, certainly the right employees. And I'm so proud of them. And I just wanted to celebrate them, and we will definitely do something in the future for those employees. And that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
When it comes to me, I just have a couple things. I will start with the Beast Feast was a blast. And I want to thank Mrs. Brookins. I was unable to stay up all night cooking the chowder this year. I forgot, I wasn't there, I didn't make it this year, to cook the chowder this year, but you stepped up and did a fine job. And Mr. Whitehurst, I was late, so you did a good job stirring. You didn't let it stick, and I'm proud of both y'all for stepping up when I fell apart. It was excellent. It was excellent. And it was a good time. I think everybody there had a good time. I also think it's a true testimony to Mrs. Whitehurst, Bronson High School graduate, of how good the thing turns out. It seemed to me, now I don't know this, but it seemed to me, and several of us talked about that, it was a little bit lower turnout, but we still did well. You know, just a little lower, but that's what somebody said. I don't know that to be fact, and I don't know his number, but I thought it was fantastic. You do a great show, and I know that's the eagle in you coming out, and I appreciate it. Anyway, but as I said so eloquently on Facebook, and it was not directed at that feast, but if you need to come to a feast, the feast you need to come to is the 21st Annual Bronson FFA Alumni Food Fest, a fest. We have delicious local delicacies that will be served there. Tickets are only $15. There will be door prizes, or I believe there's going to be a silent auction this year, as well as the annual cake auction. And these are delicious cakes, just like the ones from the Beast Feast. I will also add another thing. Now we've done all that. I'm gonna kind of bring it down a little bit. I would ask that y'all remember John Miller's family when you pray. His daughter had a stroke, but she's only 26, 27 years old, and but she's improving tremendously. She's making great strides, and before I got here, he texted me that he had an update to give me, and I didn't get that update, but the last update I had was she's got to spend about a week or so more in the hospital, and then she'll be moved to a rehabilitation center for maybe a week to 2 weeks, but that she is strong and is coming back, and they figured out what the problem is. And I know that prayers from Levy County work, and I appreciate any consideration you would have for there. I would also jump on the bandwagon with Mr. Coward here. I thought the world of Terry Tillis. And Terry Tillis made a huge impact. You know, he wasn't a flashy guy. He wasn't all, that wasn't his thing. But I can remember a year where there were a bunch of kids at the fair that would not have gotten a good price on their animal had it not been for Terry Tillis. I remember times when, hey, y'all need something, just call me. And he did that in Bronson. He did that in Chiefland. He was just a fantastic guy. And I hate that family's hurting. That was a great guy. And won't get into it, but I have a personal admiration for Terry that if you ever want to know his story, I'll tell it to you in private, but I won't tell it here. Just know that he mattered a lot to me. But moving forward, I see great things coming. And I appreciate y'all's tolerance of me tonight. We didn't set a record, doggone it, but I think it went pretty good. And if there is no further business, meeting adjourned.